Hello everyone, hope you're keeping safe, hope you're keeping sane. A very belated Happy New Year to you all. Hope you had a great festive season celebrating with friends and family and doing all the things that we should be doing, and wishing you all a very happy, prosperous, healthy and all the rest of it 2022. I want to start off a bit positive, but today's video is a little bit of a sad one really, and it's a bit more of a blow to my faith in humanity and also my ideas of the sort of direction in which we're going in terms of our use of language and of nuance as well. The use of nuance seems to be something that is really being lost in sort of recent years. For decades now, we've enjoyed the Elvis Costello hit, and we've sung along and said, Oliver's Army is on its way and Oliver's Army is here to stay. But unfortunately, the news today has confirmed that Mr. Costello has decided that Oliver's Army isn't in fact here to stay. He's actually going to pull the song from his live shows. He's no longer going to be performing this song live, and from what I could fathom, it's no longer going to be played in its original context anyway on the radio. And the reason for this is because the song includes a reference to the N word. Now, we are now conditioned in such a way that when we hear a white person, or certainly a person that isn't black, use the N word, that we automatically recoil in horror, because this is how we've been sort of conditioned to react to this particular instance. Now, what's important to understand is the reasoning behind these lyrics. Now, Oliver's Army is set in the Troubles in Northern Ireland. It's it's a song about a time in history that was particularly difficult for a lot of people, including his grandfather, who actually served in the conflict. And the use of the N-word in this song, as Mr. Costello himself explains, was a slur. It was an insult that was used against his grandfather. Now, his grandfather was white. Had his grandfather been of colour, and by of colour, I mean black, basically, don't I? That's what I'm saying. I think we're so conditioned to using the word of colour now, we actually lose sight of the fact that if it was a black man, then I don't think there would be any issues with this. Of course, they'd probably censor the word on the radio, because I guess that's just broadcasting guidelines. But it certainly there wouldn't be any calls, as there have been recently, after decades and decades of enjoying this song, to actually remove this song from playlists and from Spotify and all the rest of it. Now, firstly, what I'd say is if you haven't heard this song, go over to your streaming service of choice and give it a listen, because it's an absolute corker. It's a great song. But actually, if you hear beyond the sort of melodies and the great composition of the track, it has actually quite heavyweight in its political and historical context. And I think it is this very context that gives Costello permission to use the words that he uses. This was a genuine slur used at the time against a certain side in this conflict. It was a slur that was used against his very own grandfather, to whom he references in the song. Now, we often say that we can defend the use of the N-word in black music, in hip-hop, in R&B and all the rest of it, because it is their means by which to regain control of that word. It's a means by which to take away the power from that word that was used during times of slavery to suppress, to control and to undermine the worth of a race. And I understand that, and I get that, and I don't know enough to pass really strong comment on that. But if that is the case, if it's being used to take away the power and give it back to the people who were suppressed, who were oppressed through this language, then I think that's a great thing. But if we're going to allow that because of its context and its historical connotations, then we should allow Costello to use the word, because it was his own ancestry who were being degraded with this form of language. But unfortunately, as I say, context and nuance are so often massively overlooked when it comes to any incidents that revolve around racial language, particularly when it is racial language used by a white man. And I, for one, feel sorry for Mr. Costello. Obviously, this is a big money maker for him, and me personally, as a little bit of a fan of Elvis, would be disappointed if I went to see him at a live show and he no longer performed what is arguably his biggest hit. It's another blow for common sense, it's another blow for context, and it's another blow for nuance. But we're now in 2022, so why am I not surprised? Stay safe, stay sane everyone. All the best.